I used to cut just, to feel stuff, and he jumped, hung himself. I tried to get up there and save him.
I took my weapon and I had one in the chamber. I laid down on the couch, aimed in the direction I wanted it aimed at. Hello and welcome to Raw Recovery. I'm Dillon.
I'm Kris.
And today, we think it's important to talk about mental health. It's a big issue nowadays. A lot of people talking about it. Dealing with it. Individuals, civilians dealing with it. And so as, two people here who have had, our own adventures with mental health scenarios, issues, whatever you want to call it. I think it's good to talk about because that's still an issue. It's still something to recover from and to work through. As two people who have had run-ins with, suicide in different ways, whether it's, from like your point of view of somebody close to you doing it, and then from my point of view of attempting it, or being to that point. I think it's, we might be some good people to talk about it. Now,
And even with, being in healthcare, you see that kind of stuff too.
And I think it's actually a good opportunity to discuss it because where I'm at personally, right now while we record this is, kind of a period of struggling with the depression and the anxiety and the paranoia and all of that. So, even while we record this, it's I'm mentally back in that mode of, struggling with all those kind of emotions and all those issues that, trauma and issues and even physical trauma like, concussions can even cause. But anyway, so let's start with your story. You lead, I'll guide, and we'll, what is your experience with that issue with, how is mental illness, and I'd say mental illness, but I don't like that term, but like, mental struggles, we'll say, affected your life, or what have you seen in your life, around you? Because I know you haven't really, struggled with that as much in a direct way, but you do know people who have. So,
well, I have struggled with, the depression, and then I don't know, I was diagnosed with borderline bipolar. I don't think that's what it is. I think that I have more borderline personality disorder than I do actual bipolar. If I do have bipolar, it's like, I think there's different types of bipolar, and mine would be, the type where whenever I don't go and do reckless behavior when I get really manic, because there's some people that'll get like really, really manic and they'll do very reckless things. They become suicidal, all the things, and then they go into a depressed state where all they want to do is sleep. They have no interest in anything, any of that kind of stuff. When I get manic, it's kind of like how you saw it the other night when I was just randomly just really happy, kind of all over the place.
Mm-hmm.
I'll do that, and then I just can't sleep good for a while. And then when I have my down phase, I don't get suicidal or any of that. I just get like, it's more of I just wish I could sleep and never wake up, but not in a death sense, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just so mentally drained. I just want to just sleep. I don't have any interest in hurting myself You know, I used to cut just, you know, to feel stuff. I used to punch things just to feel that kind of pain. But I've never done any of that because I wanted to just end my life. Most I've gotten is like what I was saying, I just want to sleep and not wake up.
Well, why do you think you even did that stuff?
The cutting and all that?
Yeah, like,
I don't know.
what does that stem from?
I honestly don't know. It was just how I expressed feelings that I was having, because that's when I was in middle school, high school, and that was kind of when the emo stuff was happening. Like, a lot of people were like, oh, I'm emo, blah, blah, blah. And so that's kind of what got me started with it, was because I thought that was a cool thing to do. But then it got to where when I was in stressful situations, like, I still struggle to this day. I just don't say anything. I'll be in like a stressful type thing, like after we had the miscarriages, and I'll think about it. I'll think about starting to cut again, but I just don't do it. I've never cut with razor blades just to, you know, in my life. I'd get things like tweezers and just take them and just dig them into my skin.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Well, I guess what I'm saying is, you know, aside from apparently you thought it was cool.
Yeah, I don't know what a lot of people thought that it was weird.
Okay.
Yeah, I don't know why we
I don't know.
that.
Maybe I had enough pain from all my motorcycle
Probably.
wrecks that I was having. I didn't think
It
about
was a
that stuff.
fad
Like,
with a lot of people back then.
I don't have to think about hurting myself. All I got to do is wait, and I'll hurt myself by accident. I don't have to try. I'm still that way. I'm just clumsy. But you know, so what? Not to gloss over your own things there, but like your struggles with that stuff is one thing we might circle back to.
Mm-hmm.
But you know, I know, you know, your ex, you talked about it in the very first episode of Raw Recovery.
And then a little bit last week with Mark.
Yeah, a little bit last week with Mark Wadley.
We love him, by the way. He's such an amazing person.
The superhero Bible man.
Yes.
You know,
superhero Bible man.
Did you tell me he knows the Bible in the original, or was that somebody else?
I don't remember.
I feel like you said Mark does. I don't know. Anyway,
I feel like he probably does.
Yeah. The original.
It's
either Hebrew or Greek. One of the two.
I don't
think he knows all of them because there's three. There's
Yeah.
Hebrew, Greek, and Aramaic.
Yeah, I feel like that was him that he knew.
But anyway, so going, you know, moving ahead is, what experience do you have with, you know, I guess the end result of those who do struggle deeply with the depression, with the anxiety, things like that, and they did end up taking their own lives.
Mm-hmm.
What is your story in relation to that?
I mean, I've had some friends that, like Ian, you know, close family friend, his was overdose, and, you know, I still consider that as like a suicide type thing too, because, you know, you took that much of that because you were just, you know, going through a hard time, and he was depressed and all of that. And he was actually there for me the night that John died. He was one of the people that came and picked me up. But I feel like John is really the closest thing I've had. I've had other friends that are like, oh, I'm suicidal, I'm this, I'm that. But never to the extent like John's was. Because there was nights, you know, that the very first time that it happened, me and him had gotten into a fight. And I was wanting to leave. You know, I had taken off my engagement ring, threw it into a fire, and all the things. And then he ran off to his camper, and I heard a gunshot go off. Ended up coming back there, and it was, you know, he was just shooting it off. And he was doing that, though, because he was wanting to punch his own ticket.
Well, now we'll go back a little bit, just because, you know, we have new followers. By the way, thank you to the new followers.
Yes, thank you.
Please like, subscribe, and share, and comment, all that kind of stuff. But for the new people, who is John, and how is he in relation to you?
Oh, John was my fiance. I met him when I was working at an assisted living home. I worked with his mom. I originally was trying to hook him up with a friend of mine, and somehow me and him ended up talking instead. And we got engaged pretty fast, like me and you did, except mine and his was like a month in.
Mm-hmm.
And he was a very good guy, but he was also troubled. And he
was trouble, or he was troubled?
Troubled. He was troubled. I later found out that closer to the end that he was, using and all that stuff. But he had a lot of demons himself. And, there's sometimes I look back, I don't know if it was because I don't know how long he was doing any of that. I don't know. I just know the couple of times right before he died that I seen him doing it. Other than that, I have no idea how long. None of that. So I don't know if his mental illness stemmed from that, from doing the drugs, or if he just already had his mental illness and then that kind of stuff just added to it.
Yeah, well, it definitely didn't help.
No.
Either way, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
It does matter, but it didn't help.
Yeah.
Yeah, so kind of fast forward to the event. What happened?
Like the night of, or
the event itself, like what happened?
We were just getting, he was upset because I had the night before, or maybe it was a couple nights before. I can't remember how long closer to it was, but someone from work that was a guy had to give me a ride home from work because my tire had blown and I couldn't get in touch with John. He was sleeping or whatever, so the guy took me back home, and John was not happy about it. And we were at the hospital visiting his grandpa, and somehow we got on the subject of it again, and we got into a big fight, and he stormed off. And the day before that, he had threatened to punch his own ticket. He had put a gun to his head. And, this is a thing I always say before I talk about it on here. I don't want any negative comments about what I said to him, because I'd already been dealing with it for months, him threatening to do it. But he put the gun to his head, and I was like, you know what, just do it. Like, I don't care anymore. I'm done. Just do it. And he clicked it, or pulled the trigger, and nothing happened. So I had told his mom about that. Fast forward to the day of, that big fight's happening. He takes off walking. His grandma ended up going after him and took him back home. And when I got there, his mom and him were getting into it, and she was taking all the guns and leaving with them. And, we had just lost a puppy that we had gotten for my birthday or Valentine's Day, one of the two. And so he was upset about that. And, she was just like, you're more upset about that than you are your grandpa. And he's like, you just don't understand what I'm dealing with. And he was just crying, and just, it's a whole big thing. And that was when she left. And I made a snarky comment after she left, because we started fighting again. And he was outside, messing around with stuff. And I was like, he was getting a rope, and I was like, well, what are you going to do? Hang yourself now that she took all the guns? And he was like, oh, I didn't think about that, but thanks for the idea. And he goes up into the tree, fiddles around, ends up jumping out of it. It was tied around his body and stuff, and ended up not killing him. Then we went into the house. We made up, got into another fight, because somehow we got on the subject of that guy again. And I was like, I'm not in the wrong. I didn't do anything. And he was like, well, if you're not in the wrong for that, I'm not in the wrong for this. Went and got dressed and was getting all fixed up or whatever. And I chased after him. I was beating on the doors, trying to get in there to him, just a big toxic fight. And I finally was just like, I'm done. I'm over this. I'm not doing it anymore. And he starts grabbing my stuff, trying to throw it out. So I start doing it with him. And then that one, I was just like, I'm leaving. Went out to my car, and he came, followed me, and said, you're not leaving till you pick up your mess. Like, okay. Go inside, and he storms off. And his biggest thing when he would get mad and storm off, he would always go to his camper and crank up music. And he didn't do that time. And I just got like this feeling, hey, you need to go check on him. And when I did, that's when I walked outside and found him in the tree again. And he said, you need to go back inside. You're not going to want to see this. I was like, what are you talking about? What are you doing? Just get down, and he jumped, hung himself. I tried to get up there and save him. Couldn't. Went, there was no knives in the house. My cell phone had been missing, so I couldn't call 911 while I was sitting there in front of him. And I didn't want him to think I was leaving him, so I just kept trying to lift him up, trying to save him. And it didn't work. So then I finally, I heard him take a couple little gasps, which now I realize was his last breaths. I didn't know back at the time. That's when I took off. Got a neighbor across the street, told her what was going on, and went even further down the road. Got his uncle. We go up there. The neighbor, she met us over at the tree at that point. She had a knife in her hand and was on the phone with 911 and was shaking. His uncle gets him down from the tree, and EMTs ended up there, and they did the little shock thing. I can't remember what it's called, but they did the shock thing.
Defibrillator.
Yeah. And
clear.
Yeah. And his heart tried, and then it would flatline. They tried 2 or 3 times, and then they ended up calling it. And I went inside, and the dog, it was like the dog knew that he was gone. And,
yeah. Well, a lot of people would, start trying to speculate. Did he mean to, or was he just making another,
See, and we never figured that out.
But what I want to focus on is your side of it. Coming out of that, or having experienced that. And I know somebody I'd like to have on here at some point, a good friend of mine for many years. She found her brother,
mm-hmm.
Who had done the same thing, except his was completely by accident.
Yeah, his was that game something, right?
His was that freaking game that people were playing.
Doing it until you get a high or something.
The hanging game, and it, for many people, it went wrong, and he wasn't able to catch himself, and he went. His was by accident, but she found him.
Yeah.
And I'd like to have her on sometime, because she has her own addiction story and everything. So, and sober story too. So, but anyway,
she just had another kid.
But so moving on. So that happened. You saw that. That was traumatic. After that, there wasn't a lot of, what was your coping like? What was your I guess what was your mourning process?
I didn't really have one.
Post seeing this,
I didn't
experiencing it.
I didn't have one. I moved back to my mom's. I took the dog that he had given me. Her name was Zara. He gave her to me when I very first, met him. So I'd had her from the time that she was a week or so old. Took her back with me to my mom's, and me and her wouldn't even sleep in my own bed, because the last time I was there was with John in my bed. And so I wouldn't even sleep in my own bed. I didn't even have my own car keys. We went over there to get my stuff that was left at his grandma's house. That's when I got my car keys. They found him on his body in the morgue because of him, running off and not letting me leave. But, we went and got all my stuff back so that I had my room fixed back up, and I still wouldn't go in there. I got the 2 couches, and I made almost like a big giant bed for myself in the living room. And I would just sit in there until about 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning, the witching hour, because I thought that I would be able to,
quote unquote.
Yeah, witching hour, because I thought that I would be able to feel his ghost.
Let me backtrack a little bit. When you witness this, what are you thinking? What's going through your mind when you're seeing him do this?
I don't remember. I just remember freaking out. One of the things that I remember thinking was a very, I don't know if it'd be morbid or illogical thing. I was thinking that they were going to be able to save him, and just like, man, this is going to be awkward having to go to the hospital and see him if he ends up on life support. That's the only thing I remember really actually thinking, and then thinking, you know, he's going to think that I'm leaving him if I go and try to call with the house phone. I don't want him thinking that I'm just abandoning him. So had I went in there and called 911 on the court phone, who knows, he may actually be alive today. May have been able to get somebody to him in time. So, you know, that's what I didn't think of that until later, but I was thinking about, you know, I don't want to do this. I don't want to leave him and do the phone call, you know, and I was trying to lift his body up to take slack off of the thing. And, you know, I was just thinking I want him to realize that I'm trying to help him. But that's really the only thing I remember in the exact time of what I was thinking.
How did you feel?
Terrified. Because he had just killed himself. Like,
I mean, I know that sounds like a stupid question, but there's, you know, traumatic things. When traumatic things happen, there's, you know, emotions can be different.
Well, I do remember I barely cried after it happened. I went in, I fell to the ground when he flatlined, and then it got kind of fuzzy. I ended up going into the house, and his dog, Izzy, was in there. She was just laying on the bed as if she knew what had happened. Like, she just looked very depressed. And I went on there, and I just held on to her, and I cried uncontrollably. And then his cousin came in at some point. Someone ended up calling his family up the road. I still never figured out how his family knew what was happening, because they ended up coming up there right as they were doing the defibrillator thing.
Mm-hmm.
But I did the crying then, and then as the rest of the family was getting there, I had no more tears. I just was in shock. And that was a lot of things that some of the family was thinking, you know, like, why isn't she upset? Why isn't she crying? And,
well, that, you know, that goes into what I was saying. The emotions, when you experience a traumatic event, emotions are it's why the Bible says you can't trust your emotions, because they're so fickle.
mm-hmm.
You know, me, for instance, when I'm, you know, in a traumatic event, or a high stress, high pressure, like kind of potentially life-threatening scenario, or when I get just really horrible news, you know, so-and-so died, generally the first thing that comes out of my mouth is not, oh God, is everybody okay? Or thank God they knew Jesus, or anything like that. Typically it's a joke.
Yeah.
It's how I cope with things. You know, like, you know, for instance, you know, when my dad told me that my Uncle Mike had died, you know, somebody that me and my cousin, who's same age as me, we really looked up to our Uncle Mike when we were little kids. And when we found out that he died, my dad came into my room one I think it was a Saturday morning, and he was like, hey, wake up, you know. And I woke up. He's like, we got to go to your aunt's house. Your Uncle Mike died this morning in a car wreck. And the first thing I did was laugh. And my dad's looking at me like, what kind of psychopath am I raising? And he's like, why are you laughing? I was like, I don't know. I have no idea. I'm just laughing, you know, like, but that's just how I process things. You know, somebody, you know, something traumatic happens, is I'm going to make a joke right then, and it's going to be inappropriate. People are going to be like, why would you say that? Because that's how I deal with it.
Mm-hmm.
You know, that's the only explanation I have.
Yeah.
I don't even think it's funny. It just comes out, and I can't think of it. You know, it's just like, I don't think, it just right out of my mouth.
Well,
and I'm like, well, there goes those words. Can't get those back in the tube.
Well, that's what I was saying was actually during that job interview the other day. We were talking about how different people deal with different things and how working on the women's surgery floor, you're going to have a lot of people in there with miscarriages, ectopic pregnancies, fetal demise. And I was saying, that I can relate to that because of all the losses we've had. I say, because I've went through all the different ways of coping.
Mm-hmm.
And I'll tell you about the one that we had after Mira was born that was 9 weeks along. And I literally looked at you and said, well, at least now I don't have to have the surgery tomorrow.
Yeah, because you had a surgery scheduled for the next morning to take it out.
And then my other thing that I said, and I think it actually made you mad, I was just like, well, last time we were here, we left with a baby. This time we're coming in for me to give birth and we're leaving with nothing. And you just looked at me like, because I think I was laughing when I said it. And you were just like, that's not funny. And I was just like, I don't know how else to feel.
Yeah.
Like, what am I supposed to feel? What am I supposed to say? Because that one felt like actual labor because I was so far along. And I'm just like, it's happened so many times. I'm like, I don't know.
7. Real quick before we continue, your mic stand is just aggravating the crap out of me. I need to fix that.
Okay, fix it.
So sorry for that interruption, but her microphone stand was just irritating the crap out of me, so I had to fix that. How did you cope with John's actions there?
Well, I did what I said when I moved back to my mom's house.
Mm-hmm.
Me and brother actually got into a big fight as I accused him of doing drugs again because he had diarrhea, but he was on the toilet for like over an hour, and I was like, that doesn't make you. I was like, diarrhea doesn't make you sit like that on the toilet forever. Like, that's constipation, blah, 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 blah. And then that's when he accused me. He's like, you're saying that I'm on drugs. He's like, but you're the one that's sitting up all night, not getting any sleep, acting sporadic and like moody and all these things, because that's just how I was doing. I didn't know, like, I didn't think, or I didn't want to sleep. I didn't even, I didn't eat for like the first week. I had to quit my job because
he worked with his family, so
yeah, and that I didn't know who was blaming me, who wasn't, what people were thinking, and I had also lost so much weight in that time because when he did that, it was 4 days before my 19th birthday, so I couldn't. They tried to give me a birthday party. I couldn't eat. I couldn't I couldn't do literally anything, and so I had to quit my job. Because how am I supposed to be able to handle these people that are my size or bigger when I've lost all this weight? And then I started drinking and I started sleeping around because I didn't know what else to do. I didn't want to think about him. So I started hanging out with my high school boyfriend at the time, and he was trying to help me through things, talking with me. Because he was dating a girl who had lost her boyfriend in high school. So I think she was in like 10th or 11th grade when she lost him. So I was over there at their house, at his girlfriend's house, and she was trying to help me, through it, saying, I know what you're going through, this and that. And I got sick. And like, how my nerves get, and I'll like start throwing up. Well, I was in her bathroom and just throwing up everywhere. And he came in there and he found me throwing up, and he kind of went and tried to pat me on the back, and he stood back again and he goes, well, you do that anymore, you're going to turn into nothing. And then I just kept, throwing up, and that's when he patted me. That's after I kept throwing up, and that's when he was just like,
mm-hmm.
And, so he tried to help me through that, and I would text him and talk to him, tell him what I was dealing with. And then that's when I started talking to other people and doing things. And one of the people I started hanging out with was actually friends with some people in John's family. And I actually went to I don't remember what it was, but it was something on Easter weekend where people with, big lifted trucks or Jeeps and stuff like that, they drink all day and they go taking these things out for rides and go on these trails and all that kind of stuff.
Trail riding.
Yeah, I think that's but they called it something specific. Can't remember what it was, but
I always called it trail riding.
But I went with them and I've been drinking and all that. And that family member of his saw me there and was like, he just died such and such time ago. And here you are doing this. You don't care. You're just blah, blah, blah. And I was like, but I do. And the guy that I was actually there with, he ended up completely ghosting me after that because it was causing him too much problems.
Yeah.
Because of all that. But so I did that for about maybe a month or so. And then that's when I met my oldest daughter's dad. And me and him were drinking for like a month or two straight. And then I found out I was pregnant with her. And I had her 8 days after the 1 year anniversary of his death. And once me and him got together, I never talked about John. I had a whole bunch of John stuff. I had a blanket with his pictures. I got rid of everything. I even got rid of the dog. But the dog was mainly because she was still kind of a puppy. And I was living at his mom's house. And it was just, causing a lot of issues. So, but that's really what I did. I didn't actually process it until after me and my oldest, after me and my ex-husband split up. That's when I started processing it, and that's when I went down my drug fiasco. But I still didn't realize it was because of what happened. I just thought, I'm just doing this,
Well, that leads me into, we've talked about your drugs story before, and that's literally episode 1 of everything. So they, you can go back and watch that. And we, you talk about some of this in that video as well, but you go more in depth.
Yeah, it has the whole story
the
of
drug use in that video because that's what it's about.
Yeah, and it has like the full in depth story about John too.
So, kind of fast forward to when you actually started. I don't know if it'd be trying to, or if it just kind of was a byproduct, but like fast forward to the point where you actually started processing and healing.
It took me, let's see, 14.
She's looking at her arm because she has it's like a tattoo. Like,
it took me almost 6 years to finally process it when I was at Love Lady. That's what a lot of my stuff was, because I went through all the stages finally. I went through, because when it happened, I just stayed in the denial phase. I didn't really go anywhere else. And so I went through all the rest of the stages. I think I even reached out to his mom at some point and let her know, like, hey, I didn't forget about him. I went down this path. I even was asking her to send me stuff of his because I was wanting to start having his stuff again. Because some of the time when I was in my addiction, I would still think about him. And, I had found a shirt of his that that I had taken, I guess, before when I left. Lost it. Don't even know what happened to it. But, I ended up finding his stuff. And that's when, like, this was after the Xanax stuff started. And it was like right around when I had relapsed on Xanax and was starting to do meth. It was right in that same time frame. That's when, like, we started thinking that the house was haunted. We thought that John was out there at night playing with the dogs and, like, all these things. So once, I had tried doing a little bit of the processing, but I think it was still more of the denial phase because I'm like, oh, he's dead, but he's still here.
Yeah.
There was Balloon. I told you about the mom thing. How, the reason I didn't kill you when I did that.
Oh, yeah.
Wanted you to get a chance to be a mom. Well, around Mother's Day, I had a balloon from Lily, or from my oldest. and it said, talking about Mother's Day and blah, blah, blah. And it would just be floating in the room. So my crazy self was thinking that he was in the house. And
you mean like balloons do?
Yeah. But it was more so like there was something like hitting it. It was moving a lot faster than in one room. It was moving faster than was in another room. It was really weird. I just think that house was haunted in general. Because you could also hear, when you'd be in a room, you could also hear noises sounding like a woman screaming and a husband screaming at her while you're in a completely into the house. So there was that. But
JJ told me something very interesting. I'll tell you later off of this. It's just funny. But go ahead.
So I ended up talking to his mom when I was there and told her a little bit more about what I've been dealing with. And, rightfully so, she didn't know how she felt about sending me his stuff because she's like, well, you just got done telling me you got rid of his stuff last time. Why would I want to send, more stuff? So, but around that time was when, because I feel like my friend Coco even had me go, we had a war room there at Love Lady. And I honestly feel like me and Coco went in there and we did a prayer. And it was a thing like asking God to help me to face that. And we had the lights off and everything, almost like inviting John to come in there one last time. It wasn't a seance, but it was like a prayer. It was praying to God. It was really weird. I can't remember exactly what it was.
Nope, that's a seance.
No,
that's what that is.
When Coco comes, we're going to have Coco on here.
It's a seance.
But we were praying to God.
It doesn't matter.
But when Coco gets on the show, I'm going to see if she remembers what we did, because I don't really remember much of it. But I remember that was when I started trying to really, process all of it. And that's when I started doing the thing of the anger. Like I blame myself because there's a lot of coulda, shoulda, wouldas from that night. I still, to this day, I could have done something different.
Yeah,
but it might not have. Who am I to go and stop a man that wants to do something like that? How am I going to stop that?
Well, that's the thing, right? And that's something I think is important to talk about for those who have somebody that has done that in their presence, or even maybe not even in their presence. Maybe they went off somewhere else and did it, and they're still like, well, is there something, I should have answered the phone when they called, or I should have said something different when I did talk to them or whatever.
There's nothing you can do.
Well, there's nothing, like, first of all, and we'll get into it in my story, which is coming up here in a second. But like, when you're in that state of mind, it doesn't matter what anybody says. This is what I want to do, and that's what I'm going to do, and everybody's going to be better off for it. And all you're doing as a person trying to, I coulda, I shoulda, I woulda, whatever, is you're torturing yourself in a way, and it sounds very counterintuitive, but you're torturing yourself in a way to try to make yourself feel better.
Yeah.
Because you feel guilty any moment that you don't feel sorrow / pain for them taking their own life. So it's like you're trying to redirect yourself into this position of grieving because you feel guilty for feeling slightly better for a second. And that doesn't work. Like, you can't do that.
Well,
you're wasting time. You're wasting, energy.
Well, I think some of it was like, some of the coulda, shoulda, woulda too stuff was like, we don't know if he did it on purpose, because he did earlier that night try to jump out of the tree to begin with and got mad when it didn't work.
Well, yeah,
so it could have been
another body.
It could have been another scare tactic.
Well,
it could have been one last, screw you to me because he was mad at me. Or it could have been, I was trying to scare you and I didn't realize that, because he was only that far from touching the bottom. So it could have been a thing of I was trying to scare you again and I didn't realize it was going to actually work. Like, so all of those things, that's why I went through that of what if I had done something different? What if we hadn't had that fight? What if I hadn't stayed out at the car when he went into the house? What if I would have just chased after him like I always do? So I had all of that stuff. But then there's also a what if he didn't do it that night and he did it a different night and I came home to find him like that?
Well, yeah, and that's my point, is that if somebody's is dead set on doing that.
Yeah. But how do we know that he was really trying to do that?
But the point is, okay, so let me kind of try to break it down a little bit. Someone who is trained in, like, the split-second decision-making, police officers, firefighters, military, they're trained in making decisions extremely fast, right? And going with that decision, hoping it's the right one. But the thing is, they even get it wrong. They're taught, like when I was in basic, I didn't make it through basic, just to make that clear. Health issues kind of put a damper on that. So, one of the things that they did teach us in basic is just make a decision.
Yeah.
The worst decision you can make is no decision. That's the worst one. If you make a decision and it's wrong, okay, fine. We can learn from that and move on. But at least you made a decision. If you make no decision and people die, now you're just a failure, is the way the military looks. Like you just failed your duties. That's the way they look at it, right? You're not trained in that. Most people are not trained in that. So the fact that you did anything is, I guess the word would be commendable. The fact that you tried to help at all.
Yeah, but I still shouldn't have let the fight get to the point that it did. Where
You're still blaming yourself. What good does it do? You're just adding weight onto yourself that does no good. It doesn't bring them back.
Yeah.
It doesn't change what happened. You're just wasting time in your life.
Yeah.
Which is a natural thing to do. But it is something that we have to be conscious about not doing. I'm doing it again. Crap. Go back. You know what I mean? Like, yeah. I got to move on.
That's why I have a hard time talking about it too much, because then my brain starts going back to the, and maybe, that's what we were talking about with Mark in last week's episode, that maybe that's why I got to do the thing with my brain, like what he says, and just shut that.
Yeah, it's
right down.
It's what the Bible says, taking every thought captive to the obedience of Jesus Christ. It's not you, it's not you that brings the thought in, but it is you that decides to sit there and think about it.
So do you have any mental health experience? I think that we touched a little bit on some of it during your story, but I can't remember. Yeah.
That would be episode 3.
Yeah.
I believe.
Yeah.
You can go back and watch it.
Yeah.
Yeah, so, like yourself, obviously, this is my second go around of marriage.
There will not be a third.
And so she did not need to be married at the time. We were young, so we got married at 20. And we were divorced by 22. For my age, and we were just too young. So, and she didn't need to be in a marriage. I didn't need to be. I wasn't mentally stable enough. Way worse than I am now. Medicated, so I was on antidepressants, mood stabilizers, all kind of crap, and I was on and off those medicines because I don't like taking medicine. Well, to me, it's a Band-Aid, so I was like, I don't want it. So I'd take it for a few weeks and then stop.
What'd they have you on that medicine for?
Depression, anxiety,
Did you ever get diagnosed with any other stuff?
Depression, anxiety, what do you call it?
Borderline personality disorder.
Is that the actual term, or is that what I forgot and called it by accident?
No, that's the actual term. You said it was split personality. Because Saul, that's his alter person. That's what we named him.
That's what you named him. I didn't want to name him.
Well, I named him Saul. But Saul, he's not a whole separate thing.
Yeah.
You know, so that's why I don't know if they diagnosed you with split personality or if you said it the wrong way. But I personally...
No, I remember the words borderline.
Mm-hmm.
I remember personality, and I remember disorder.
Yes,
I know for a fact those words. I think split is something because it has been quite many years ago now.
Yeah.
I think that's something that I, like in the context of the conversations that we had, and she was the psychiatrist, psychologist, whichever one can give you medicine, said...
Psychiatrist.
Yeah. You could have this, you could have that, you could, and then...
Yeah. Yeah, I think, like, just watching you whenever you go from 0 to 100, that's kind of what I do. And I have a lot of friends that have that, too. I've seen them in their episodes when they go just from 0 to 100. And, because, like me, with mine... I don't see red like people say that they do. I just get like fuzzy of the entire ordeal. It's like I'm not in control. As soon as my heart rate goes up, I'm not in control of anything that comes out of my mouth. And that's what I feel like is what you do when Saul starts coming out. When you get that voice and you start screaming or having an episode, there's no getting through to you because it's just like that anger is completely taken over you. And that's kind of how mine does. But I don't, mine just may not be as bad as yours because I don't last for long periods. Mine's literally have a flip out and then I come down from it and I'm done. But yours, that's what I think yours is. But so besides that, you've got that and then you got the anxiety and depression. Have you had any, during all of the medicines and stuff like that, did you have any times of trying to do any self-harm?
No. No, it was after, or no, actually, it wasn't even after we got divorced. It was just one of the first, we were separated at one point for a little bit, and it was during that, that I, had my moment of I'm done with all of this and I hate life, I hate myself. And I don't see any positives after this. So what's the point of hanging around if I don't see any, if there's nothing if it didn't get any better, what's the point of sticking around here? Like,
yeah.
Let's
So you had more, yours was different than mine. Yours wasn't, oh, I just want to sleep and not wake up. Yours was, I'm just tired of living and I want to actually be gone.
Yeah, I figured that nobody, I figured everybody was better without me.
Yeah.
Because, and I still act this way. Nothing's changed on this front. I'm very moody and temperamental, oftentimes without warning and extremely quickly.
Yeah.
So
I attest to this.
Literally one sentence, I'm talking, happy, cheery, fine, woohoo. One sentence. The very next sentence, it's a bit kind of just to paint a picture. It's not literal, but the very next sentence, I hate everybody, everything, and I'm done with everybody. And I want it all to burn and go away.
Yeah.
Not literally.
That's when Saul comes out.
No, that's just me. That's just me when I'm just like done. Like I'm done with the conversation. And the weird thing is it's not even I don't even have to be depressed. Sometimes it's literally just me like I'm bored of the conversation.
Mm-hmm.
I'm tired of talking to you. And so I'm just like I'll go from responding and talking back blah 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 blah, and then all of a sudden my answers turn into no.
Yeah, I've seen you when you're like that. Yeah.
And it's like I'm done. I'm done. It's not like a conscious thing in my mind of like I'm bored of this, I'm done. It's just like it's after the fact or after it starts and I'm in the middle of it that I'm going, oh, I guess I'm done with this conversation now because I just quit responding. Like, but and then it has things to do with like groups of people, things like that. That's more the anxiety. And that causes depression. So when I'm around large groups of people or even small groups of people in a physically small setting, I'm like
when we go to Pawpaw's to eat and there's like a whole bunch of people in there, and then you start having those episodes where you get like really, really overwhelmed and we have to take you outside or something.
Yeah. Well, and it's, and that's even in a freaking mansion, colonial mansion.
No, not that Pawpaw's. The Pawpaw's that we go to in the Smokies.
Oh, yeah. This restaurant Pawpaw's.
Yeah, not my Pawpaw's. I've never seen you like that at my Pawpaw's.
No, it's because he has a big house.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, at the restaurant Pawpaw's.
Yeah.
Yeah, because that's a small setting and it's loud.
Yeah.
And I'm like, get me out of here.
See, I'm like that. It doesn't matter if it's small or big. If there's a lot of people and it's like I get overstimulated, I don't get like you do about like getting really angry and like all that. I just get very anxious and I end up getting panic attacks and have to go outside.
Yeah.
So I think you don't have an actual panic disorder, do you? Because I have panic disorders.
No. Well, I don't know. I mean, I kind of feel panicky.
But do you have like full blown panic attacks and anxiety attacks?
I just get mad.
Okay.
When I feel anxiety come on, I'm not the kind of person when anxiety comes on, I'm like,
Yeah.
I'm the anxiety kind of like when the anxiety comes on, I'm the kind of person of like, I'm just gonna take out whatever's causing it. I'm gonna attack. I'm not a sit back.
Yeah.
Leave me alone. I'm like you're getting away from me whether you like it or not. That's not.
Well, you've seen me when I get mine. Mine turns into pacing and like hyperventilating and having to go outside. Yeah. I don't know which one's worse. Wanting to kill everybody because you're so anxious or feeling like you yourself is going to die because you're so anxious. Have you had any experiences of, seeing someone take their lives, being around someone that was, suicidal, or you yourself trying to take your own life?
Yeah, I mean, I tried to. So when we were separated the first time, that's what I alluded to a minute ago. When me and my ex-wife were separated, the time before we actually ended up getting divorced, it was just that, like I said, like I'm tired of this. I'm tired of everything, everybody. I don't see it getting any better. I don't see how it's going to get any better. So I'm out, so I we lived in an apartment.
In an enemy?
In an enemy. And I had on the TV, I had on Hillsong, the YouTube video of Hillsong is 2 songs together. It's live in Miami. It's from With Everything and something else. I can't remember right now. If I think about it long enough, I'll remember. But anyway, I had that playing all day. And I was singing it. And guess I got to a point where I was like, you know what, when this song is over, I had my little a little weapon over there, and I was like, you know what, I can't. And it had been several days of this. I didn't understand then the benefit of staying busy. So I was just home, not doing anything and just wallowing in, anger and hate and fear and anxiety and depression and all that. Like I didn't go seek anything. So I have it sitting over there, and I was like, I just kind of reached a point, and I was like, when this song ends this time, I hit play. I was like, when the song ends this time, it's like a 20-minute video. I'm done. And it got about halfway through or so, and I took my weapon, and I had one in the chamber, and I laid down on the couch, and I had it aimed in the direction I wanted it aimed at, and was ready. And the song was coming to an end. They were doing the can at the end. Sorry, that's a music term. At the end of the song, when they ring it out, and the band's just on a note, and the drummers, didn't they call that a can? So anyway, they were doing that at the end of the song, and I started to apply pressure, and the next thing to the thing, and the next thing I remember is I was sitting up on the couch. I no longer had the weapon in my hand. It was sitting, I don't even remember where I put it. It was somewhere, I assume. And my phone was on the couch next to me, and it was open, and I had texted my mom my address. They didn't know where I lived, so I texted my mom my address, and that's all I put. I didn't say how I felt, didn't say what I was trying to do, didn't say no. I literally just wrote my address and hit send,
Yeah.
And a few minutes later, I don't know how long, but a few minutes later, I hear a knock on the door. And it's my dad. My mom called my dad. He worked right down the road. And
I've always wondered why it was him that showed up and not her.
He worked right down the road. My parents lived in another town. So,
yeah.
So he came in, talked for a minute. For a little bit. I don't remember how long, don't remember what we even talked about, don't remember how the conversation, don't remember anything about it. I just know that he was there.
Did he know what you were trying to do?
No.
Did you ever tell him?
My mom told him later, but he didn't know at the time.
So he had no idea why he was giving your address to come check on you?
No, I think my mom just told him at that moment, go check on Dillon, he's not okay or something.
Oh, okay.
Right. So like he just came over, and he's just talked to me and for a little while, and then can't remember if he left and then Miss Sharon showed up, or if he left when Miss Sharon, I don't remember. Anyway, at some point, Miss Sharon, she was the worship leader of the church that I went to. She's like one of my mom's best friends. She's been around since before I was born. She likes to say that she's known me longer than I've known her, because she was at my mom's baby shower for me. She was there with my mom and dad when I was born. And, so she's known me, longer than I've even been
so your mom
on this earth, right?
Your mom told her to go there like she did your dad?
No. So,
Oh.
She shows up. And, well, kind of. Anyway, she shows up, and she stays with me till my mom gets there, and then they both stay there for a while.
Yeah.
And stuff. I end up going to stay with my parents for a time, and then, we kind of start getting out of the crap, right? And
So you went and moved in with your parents after?
yeah,
it happened?
for briefly
That's good.
for a little bit. So what happened is apparently when I was in that moment of starting to apply pressure to the aforementioned device, I was there came a point when apparently I got up. Obviously, I got up and texted my mom that. In the moment...
Because was your phone not there with you when you were doing all this?
Yeah, it was on the end table.
Oh.
The coffee, whatever.
And you don't remember getting up and texting?
No, I don't remember any of that. Miss Sharon, in that moment, we tracked it back time-wise. In the moment that I was doing that, Miss Sharon was driving down the road, and out of nowhere, she had a thought come into her head, a vision, whatever you want to call it, whatever, come into her mind of me laying down somewhere. She couldn't see where, but I was laying down somewhere. Over top of me, kind of like hovering over, like kind of descending, was like a demon coming down. But as a demon was coming down, she said she could see an angel like coming in between the two of us, between me and the demon, right? Coming in. And she called my mom and said, something, to the effect of, what's wrong with Dillon?
Mm-hmm.
And she, from what I remember, my mom was like, he's having a rough time, but he's okay. Why? And then while she was on the phone with him was when she got a text message from me of my address.
Oh.
And she goes, hang on a minute. And then she's like, I don't think he's doing good. He just sent me his address. That's all he sent. So Miss Sharon was headed to something. Called them and said, I ain't going to be there. Turned around. My mom sent her my address, and she came over.
Didn't you say before, too, that when it was happening, she started praying, too?
Yeah, she started praying when she saw that.
Mm.
And so, the only thing I can think is that's what saved my life in that moment was somebody who, God said, not today.
Well, I wonder, like, since you don't remember any of it, how demons can possess you, and sometimes you don't remember things that happen when they have possessed your body. Wonder if angels can possess people, and if, like, when that angel was doing that, if it possessed you long enough for you to be able to call your mom, text that to your mom.
I don't know, because here after that, when I was later on, at some point, I don't remember how long, but at some point, we were getting divorced. I was working somewhere, and one of the guys was a veteran, and he had told me, some of his stuff, and so I told him mine, and he said, "You know what that means?" And I said, "Nope." He said, "That means that you are a coward in the best way."
Yeah.
And I said, thank you. I'm not real sure how to take that one. And he said, "You're a coward because you couldn't pull the trigger." He said, but in the best way means, but you were brave enough not to pull the trigger.
Mm-hmm.
He said, there was enough in you to say, I don't know how, but I'm gonna figure out how to make it through this.
Mm-hmm.
Coming out of that, I still had a lot of issues, still do. But I don't struggle with that anymore.
Well, didn't you, like, at some point after that, when you were still struggling, I don't know if it was, I guess it would have been after that, but I don't know how long after, didn't you, like, still struggle real bad and actually tell God if he doesn't take that away from you?
Yeah, so I was driving down the road. A lot of my conversations with God happen when I'm driving down the road. something about the movement soothes me.
How long after this incident?
Oh, this has been after I was already divorced. I think it's probably like a year later.
Okay.
After the divorce, so like a year and a half later after that whole incident. And I'm driving down the road, going through a intersection, and I was very depressed, a lot of anxiety, and I was just pissed off. And I've been told you shouldn't say that kind of stuff to God because He's God. And I always come back with the Bible says to come as you are, and that's how I was, so that's how I came. And I said, I don't think that God wants us to come up with this facade of like, hey, everything's good, but like, if you don't mind, when you get a chance, if you could. No.
Yeah.
If you're pissed off, come at him pissed off. He's a big boy. He can handle it.
Oh, my mom, when she gets mad, she'll I don't know if she still does it, but she'll full-blown cuss in her prayer, like cussing at God, talking to Him, just mad, just like, God, I feel these things.
Yeah, so God doesn't want you to come at Him with this, like, He already knows.
Right.
So He's like, would you just tell me?
Yeah.
I'm a big boy. I can handle your anger, I promise. So
yeah, she tells me.
So I was going through this intersection. I was just pissed off, right? And I said, I have seen you heal. And I was suicidal again. And I was like, I have seen you heal people through me. I have seen broken bones visibly from the outside without an x-ray, broken bones healed on the car ride to the hospital from me praying. I have seen you heal people of sicknesses when I prayed for them. I have seen people healed of depression and traumas when I prayed for them. Where's mine?
Mm-hmm.
I've been asking you to heal me of this for years. Where's mine? And I was just mad, and that's a condensed version of it and a significantly quieter version of it. But yeah, I was just completely pissed off, and I was like, and I finally, kind of towards the end of it, it wasn't a prayer as much as it was just a rant directed at God, right? And I was, at the end of it, I was like, if you don't heal me from this, I'm going to kill myself because of it one day, and that's on you. That ain't on me. And that was the end of it. I didn't say amen. I didn't, none of that. I was just like, just started huffing. Just like, freaking egg, kept driving. Didn't think about it again. 6 months later, I don't know if it's to the day or not, don't know, but I know it was 6 months. 6 months later, I'm driving down the road through the same intersection, and almost audibly, I hear God, hey, when was the last time? And I physically spoke, and I was like, man, I don't know, it's been about 6 months. It's been 6 months. And then I started crying and laughing and yelling, you did it! And I haven't struggled out, the depression, the anxiety's still there. But not to the level that it was, and I don't have that, like, I can't live with this anymore.
Do you do
desire or whatever?
Do you have the times kind of like how I was saying about mine, where I just want to sleep, never wake up, or do you not even have that?
No, I want to sleep just because depression makes me tired, but I don't want to like not wake up. I just want to take a nap. Dealing with that kind of stuff, coping mechanisms are important.
Well, have you had any other times besides that one that you've tried to punch your own ticket?
Yeah, times before that, I hesitate to say that those were really efforts, as much as it was me kind of flirting with the idea when I was, depressed. Now, this was in my teens. you know, knives.
Was it like intrusive thoughts of doing it? Like,
No,
or
no,
was
no.
it actually planning it out?
No, I had the knife in my hand and I had it placed. You know, but it was. I just think those are different. Like, you know,
Yeah.
it was. I wanted to, but I knew I wouldn't.
Yeah, you weren't pushed to that.
Yeah, I
level
wasn't pushed
yet.
to that point.
Yeah.
So I would say one big one, and then some flirtations beforehand.
Yeah.
But after that one big one, and after that whole like ordeal, it hasn't been a struggle since. Dealing with the depression, anxiety, and all that kind of stuff, that's still a thing that kind of comes around, and some of that is, you know, personality stuff. Some of it is injuries that I've, you know, had and different things, you know. And
you think any of it has to do with when you were younger too?
Yeah, but at the same time, it's like I don't, you know, people, you know, well, you need to talk about the, you know, this stuff and, you know, blah blah blah, and I'm like, yeah, and you know, we've had this talk, but it's like when I do, it just pisses me off again.
Well,
it doesn't help get things out. It just pisses me the hell off.
You don't think that talking about it and getting that frustration and that anger out with talking about it would help?
No, because that doesn't get the anger out. It just makes me feel the anger. Coping mechanisms help me a lot up until recently, unfortunately.
Well, like you said, you said last night though, maybe getting some more tattoos or something. Maybe
well, that's the thing. So I finally realized that I got my first tattoo when I was 17 just because I wanted to. My brother had tattoos. By that point, he's 5 years older than me, so he already had a good bit.
Well, I imagine.
And I was, you know, oh, that's cool. I like that, you know. And so I got my first tattoo when I was like 16 or 17. My parents signed for it as a birthday present. My next tattoo was from them. A third one was from them. But then, you know,
I need to get them to start getting me some tattoos.
It was for my birthdays. Every year I get one. But then after that, I was married. I was making my own money and all that kind of stuff. So I started getting them. And then you know, this has been very recently, like within the last like week, I kind of started thinking back because I've been in this last like couple weeks having the, you know, the depression and the anxiety and all this stuff that I'm trying to deal with right now again. So I'm kind of thinking back over stuff, you know, as you do. And I started realizing that when I was going through hard times, when my depression and my anxiety is bad, I'd get a tattoo and I would feel better after, for a while after. And then I had other coping mechanisms, riding motorcycles, playing drums. And I can't do those right now. But, you know, I don't know what it is about getting a tattoo that makes me feel better. Maybe it's some of the pain. Maybe it's some of the noise. Maybe it's that focusing on what I want and where I want it and how I want it done and the creative process. Maybe it's...
Do they tickle?
Your
tattoos, do they tickle?
It depends on where.
Well, because that's one thing that I saw on Facebook not too long ago about like people that they tickle when they're getting tattoos. That's a sign that, and I don't know how accurate it is, but a lot of people in the comments seem to agree. It's a sign that you've had some type of trauma, because it's a trauma response. Like when you tickle my feet and I laugh and I act the way I do, that's because it's actually painful being tickled, and that's my trauma response. So like if you feel tattoos and they make you feel ticklish, people say that you've been through traumas and stuff, and that's why.
I don't know. I think that's people just trying to be a victim. I don't know. Because I've had a lot of trauma. I've had a lot of physical trauma and emotional trauma that I'm not going into here, but like, and my tattoos didn't tickle. Some of them I don't feel. My fingers, I didn't feel those. The one behind my ear, I didn't feel that.
That one made my head feel like my brain was shaking.
I fell asleep. But the ones
fingers you didn't feel. Those things hurt mine.
The one on my hand right here, I didn't feel.
Well, but I'm talking about like all those. Those didn't.
No, those I didn't feel them.
Those hurt mine.
The on my elbows, those didn't really hurt that bad.
Well,
now the one that did hurt, that was the worst tattoo I've ever gotten. As far as pain, is the one that's underneath my watch band right there.
Really?
Yeah,
I've always heard people say those ones don't hurt.
That was the worst. I almost actually cried when he was doing that one.
Wow.
That's why, if you notice, this tattoo stops before that point.
Yeah.
If you can see it, but it stops down here.
I've heard of people.
I was like, you ain't going over that spot. We ain't doing that again.
Well, I've heard of people that used to be cutters that they'll get tattoos there to cover up their scars.
Yeah. But tattoos kind of apparently, and that's why I'm planning another one. And that's what made me realize it, is that I started planning this new tattoo that I want on my hand, on the top of my hand. And I was like, why am I always planning tattoos when I'm pissed off and depressed and anxious and stuff? And then I got to thinking back, and I'm like, all but 3 of my like 50-something tattoos came from when I was going through a time like that. Having a coping mechanism that's a healthy one. Now, you can argue that tattoos aren't healthy and, biblical crap stuff, whatever. I don't care. Yeah. It's better than drinking. It's better than drugs. So I don't care. But having coping mechanisms is extremely important, whether it's talking to somebody, writing, tattoos, drawing, something that's healthy, that focuses your mind and helps you process stuff. Your mind, when you have the depression and the anxiety and that desire that's kind of lingering there of punching your own ticket, having your mind can't process things like that well. But if you have something else to focus on, it allows you to then process life more effectively, because your brain is focused on this other thing as far as movement, actions, and it frees your mind to process what you're dealing with. And if you have to do that every single time, that's fine. It'll get you through it every single time. And God will, if you look at your life, God provides those mechanisms. You're born with them. Lean into it, as long as it's healthy. Don't lean into.
Make sure it's healthy.
Don't lean into drinking and drugs. That's not healthy. Lean into the good things, even if it's hiking, walking, whatever. Go do it.
Yeah.
And that is what can get you through it. And a lot of times for me, it's when I get on a motorcycle and I just start talking, like praying or singing. Sometimes I put my earbuds in. Back
singing
when I could ride.
Listening to music seems to be what helps me.
Yeah. So, hopefully that helps somebody. And there's more depth to it we can go into later, but I don't know. Hopefully our stories help people.
Yeah.
Help somebody who is, dealing with similar things, because there's a lot of people that do, especially nowadays. I don't know why.
Oh yeah.
But
especially in kids too.
Yeah.
Because of all the bullying and stuff.
Yeah. We didn't talk about bullying much when we were growing up.
Mm-mm. Bullying's just gotten worse and worse over the years.
Punch them in the throat and they'll leave you alone. All right, cool. I can do that. Make them think you're crazy enough to schwack them and they'll leave you alone. I played that card. It works. But yeah, kind of a somber one this episode, but something that is important. So
yeah,
thanks for joining us. If you know somebody who's struggling with stuff like that, addiction, depression, anxiety, if you think this would help them, please share it with them. And we would appreciate it. And like, subscribe, share, comment, all that. We're on TikTok, Facebook. I don't remember what all you do, all that stuff.
Well, we were on X, but somehow I got kicked out of it. So
Elon doesn't like people helping people, apparently.
yeah, guess not.
I'm just kidding. I have no idea why that happened.
I was saying that I was spamming when all I did was make a post. So
I don't know.
what
Whatever.
happened.
Something got screwy on that one. We'll figure that out.
So now we have YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. That's it.
Yeah. Okay. So those things. But thank you for being here. To the new subscribers, thank you.
Mm-hmm. And welcome.
And welcome. And tell your friends. Share the videos. We want more subscribers. We want to help more people. So, we look forward to seeing you and talking with you on the next one. And until then, find your coping mechanism and go do it.
Mm-hmm.
And quit dwelling in the depression. Quit dwelling in the anxiety.
Just do it. Not do it that you're thinking about doing. Do it with the coping mechanisms. That's what I meant.
Right. Okay. Well, anyway, you get the point. So anyway, I'm Dillon.
I'm Kris.
Thank you, and we'll see you next time. Bye.
Bye.